You don't get that so much in a symphony orchestra. The strings and the horns don't necessarily communicate sometimes, and when practice is over, they go home. There's dead, and pipers can be less serious about the music if you've got a character in the band like that. And I think musicians thrive if they're less serious about what they're trying to do. Especially when I see these younger competing pipers, they're so hell bent on competing, and they're also so bent on embellishment issues. How many times in your teaching somebody misses an E doubling so they stop playing? Ugh. They look, yeah, it's a broken record, and their attitudes. If you can get them around to, just play good music, whether it has everything in it or not, that's the encouragement factor. And then getting back to your book, I found the book totally enchanting from that point of view. You made it quite clear that no matter how frustrated or downtrodden you seem to be, there's always something about the positive aspects that you can bring out. And you have indicated yourself by your own life examples that that's the case. And I got people that they don't play well in a contest, and their life centers around getting a prize. Oh, man. They're going to have a lot of disappointment in life if that's what the situation is,
Yeah. And just that's just bringing that back to Jack and Terry Lee, and they're so much that way as well. If you look at if you look at SFU from the outside, you might be tempted to think that they're really dialed into what you were saying, which is just like competing and trying to get everything perfect. And certainly when I was in the band, we practiced so much. So the band plays so much during the summertime, but it's really like, Jack and Terry are really actually not about that at all. And it maybe takes some time to like learn what's really going on. But what's really going on is you're just really enjoying playing, and you're enjoying the hard work aspect. And then the results are a natural byproduct of that. And it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually matter that much. Like going back to Jack Lee being a big softie, he's very intense. He wants to play the best he possibly can. But I still remember getting our asses kicked at Pitlochry that year. That I'll never forget that. So I forget what year it was, 2006 maybe. We tried to go over early because we hadn't done as well as we wanted in 2005. So we tried to go over early.
That was with the nail chanters too, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were trying some different gear and stuff. And we tried to go over early, and I still remember I was hanging out with Bernard Buhadana during the and I just remember first place not us, second place not us, third place not us, etc. We ended up being sixth place, which the point of that trip was to try to win. Sixth place was like a shocker. And, I don't know how old I would have been, maybe 20 years old or something. But what I remember most from that trip is I ended up going out to dinner with Jack and Terry, and Yori Chisholm was there. And I just remember so clearly Jack and Terry not being upset about the result at all. It was like, and I think they were just kind of talking about some things that were going on at home in BC, like just sort of normal stuff. And they try to enjoy their dinner, and they were like totally relaxed about, what to me seemed like the end of the world. Like I was thinking in my head, like, guys, like, why aren't you freaking out about this? And it's just because, and it starts to click in over time. It's like the result is cool and it's going to come. And I think at that point, Jack and Terry are super confident that the results would come, over time. And sure enough, you get home, and we switched away from the Ganaway Bags. We were back on Sheep. We switched back to the Sinclair Chanters, and, just certain decisions were made to get the band back online, to be competitive again. Yeah. But it's not like a big thing. It's not, like you said, it's maybe it doesn't define you how you do in the competition. And maybe with your experience, that's where you are now. And you can appreciate it. And that's also why Jack and Terry and many others in the band are still with us, the longevity of the band. Because burnout isn't on the table for all these reasons. They won't get ulcers over not getting a prize. So their life does not depend on
winning that prize. Jack is a perfect example. I go over to the Glenfiddich when I can. About 4 years ago, he broke down in the march. Uh, I forget the tune he was playing. I got it at the tip of my tongue. That's not important. But he comes back the following year and wins the event.
Right.
And now to break down on the biggest stage of piping world, and then come back. And I had breakfast with him the next morning, and he was right on to the next event. He was going to spend a few days practicing at a friend's house and then head down to London for the Braddock. But this is the attitude, and that's why these people are still in the game today. And so they play with passion, but results don't control that passion at all. So
right.
It's huge. I've seen people quit because they didn't reach the pinnacle in the prize list that they wanted. What a way. In other words, your whole life, your happiness is dependent on getting a first, second, or third. That's, you know. And I think that's another thing your book brings out. Happiness can be at any level whatsoever. Happiness equals enjoyment. And I don't care whether you only play Green Hills and Scott and the Bray the rest of your life. If you're having a good time at that, then that's happiness. You've defined your own piping environment. And I think that's important, you know.
Somewhere along the way, it can get lost. So, So when you start there, like when you first start playing, there's no question that piping is bringing positive value to your life, which is sort of the reason you do it. And I think it's easy to understand at the beginning, but then something happens in there where, suddenly, and maybe it is that you hit the wall and you can't get better and you can't figure out why, and then a lot of us, like a lot of the people I hung out with over the years, got caught up in the competition web, and weren't able to continue to enjoy it. That's a tricky thing. Well, and I think that's why, and I don't want to speak for him, but I think that's why Jim McGillivray stopped playing at the high level solos. It's just, it started like the fun factor sort of wore off for him, and so he probably wisely decided not to do it anymore. It's certainly something I struggle with in the solos.
And he has,
yeah. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I think you can find alternate ways of enjoying what you're doing, and it might not necessarily be in the competition. I do think this thriving on competition is I find it being an awful North American thing. We foster it in our sports. Records are meant to be broken. Who's the best? Who's the player of the game? Who's the MVP? You get this idea, and I think maybe it's all over the world, but I find it really prevalent here. The best hockey player of all time. You get the idea, And,
yeah.
And competition does, bring that element into it, and so you don't have to be the best. You just have to be one that satisfies yourself, and so my interpretation of that is that, and it's great, I'm not competing anymore. I can sit back and I'm playing music which I just love, and I'm playing a lot of it, and it's new. And in fact, in some of my teaching, I'm learning the tunes maybe a month or two ahead of time so I can teach them down the road.
Right.
So there's always a motivation that way, and it's always in the education somewhere along the line. So that's my happiness. I'm in my happy zone.